Are you wondering how you can contribute to Funniest Thing?
Don't flip out. Go to patreon.com/funniest thing.
Whoa!
Oh!
That would have been crazy. Welcome to the Funniest Thing,
Yes.
where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
That's correct.
I'm Darrell.
And I'm Deb. No. I'm Ed. Sorry. Indy over here at Chobo Studios threw me off with this whiteboard. He's always throwing us a curveball.
Oh, what's wrong? I didn't.
Well, over your shoulder it says funniest thing with Cheryl and Deb.
Cheryl and Deb. I thought there were different clients this week. I'm sorry.
You're a busy man. I understand. What were we saying?
That
Each week
we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes, and we're recording live from Chobo Studios in beautiful
downtown Van Nuys.
Yes.
Ooh, he's drinking from his Yeti today, folks. We have a great show for you called Make All Things New with Sammy Smith. Statement, behold, I make all things new, implies that we have the power within to transform any situation for the better.
Yep.
This bold affirmative exclamation snaps us out of a complacent negative state and opens our minds to inspiration. The instant we catch ourselves terrorizing ourselves with criticism or condemning any person, place, or thing, and then we switch to blessing, we are always thrilled at how our circumstances begin to improve at once. On this episode, Darrell and Ed highlight the powerful tool of affirmative prayer to indeed make all things new. And during the second segment, Soulful Sammy Smith out of Florida, not too far from Orlando, motivates us to accentuate the positive with today's reading from Joyce Kramer, who he has worked closely with and we've been getting a great email, inspiring email each day. And
yes.
I think is the reading still Choose?
Yes, it's very good.
Okay, great.
I'm keeping it under wraps so the viewers stay tuned in to the time Sammy gets here.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Want to tell everyone, we haven't mentioned this in a minute. I don't think last time we mentioned it, but let everyone know what it means to be a member of the Funniest Thing Club.
Yeah, because we're really a public service ministry.
That's right.
And we encourage everyone to be a member of the Funniest Thing Club. The great news is there's no dues or fees.
That's right.
And we're a bunch of truth enthusiasts who live each day as ambassadors of God's love. As we consciously radiate love, we perform everyday miracles and experience better than expected outcomes. Mm-hmm. It's true. If you're already living this way or strive to, then you may consider yourself a member. And we motivate one another by simply sharing how miracles occurred naturally in our circumstances as the result of living lovingly and expectantly.
Wow. You know, you reminded me of once we sang a song by one of our favorite Hollywood Hills gurus these days. I believe he's in the Hollywood Hills, Ringo Starr.
Beverly Hills.
He's in Beverly Hills. Thank you. And he said, the original lyrics that we uncovered said,
yes,
we don't have to sing the blues. No, we don't have to pay our dues. We don't have to sing the blues because with God it all comes easy. Yeah,
wait,
so a lot of us.
Can that be our three breaths? Because that's perfect for.
Let's get right into it.
Renew.
Let's take a breath.
For behold, and I make all things I know.
What is it? Pay our dues first, right? We don't have to pay. Sing the blues. Sing the blues first, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I love this impromptu stuff. One more breath to clear my old noggin. I've been in that district all week. Good God. We don't have to play our. Shoot, what is it? Sing the blues.
We don't have to sing.
Here we go.
Okay.
We don't have to sing the blues. We don't have to pay our dues. Because with God it all comes easy.
We don't have to sing the blues. We don't have to pay our dues. Because with God it all comes easy. Yeah.
We don't have to sing the pay our dues. We don't want to sing the blues. Because with God it all comes easy.
Yeah.
Man, I swear this show is perfect about making all things new because my mind needs to be made new because I picked up some of this debris from working in the environment and the way it triggers me. Old beliefs that I have to do I have to work hard to get things done, that I'm in trouble because someone else is having a bad day and they're blaming me for something, and it's like in the past I used to really internalize these things and take them on. And so today, like when we were I was driving over the hill because I was running a little bit behind you since you were up since 3 a.m.
I was
in
very
the golden
excited.
hour.
I was
as you call it.
excited for our show today.
I know, but the readings you were reading were really ministering to my own mind because it's so important to realize no matter what the outer condition is, it starts with renewing my mind because my mind is the thing that is generating these outer conditions. And it can be so hard sometimes it can be a challenge to believe that when I've been thinking something for a really long time, right? That has been really rooted into what I consider reality. It almost feels scary to let it go, but the irony is that the fear is the belief is the fear, and letting go of it. You think it would be so obvious. I'm just going to let this go. I want to feel good again. But sometimes when I've been thinking something so long, I forget that it's actually my natural state to feel good. And then I started believing that it was my natural state to be like in fear and under stress. And so this show about making all things new and the fact that we can renew our mind and transform our entire situation, doesn't matter how old you are, what the financial situation, what the health situation, none of that matters when we recognize that there's principle at play. And when we renew our mind, we can reset the whole thing to come back to who we really have always been and who we truly are and just be born anew.
Yes. Just yesterday morning, I wrote a note to myself, a question. Am I hiding and allowing my fears to control me? And that keeps me from falling into that. But it also makes me hyper aware throughout my day in a good sense of when I'm starting, you know what I mean? To shrink a little. And I don't want to do that. And I'm going to just read.
Well, let me say you hit the nail on the head right there for me because I realized before I was doing inspiring things like this show, talking to people like you, I didn't have friends that we already spoke about these principles and like really boosted ourselves. I used to spend a lot of time hiding from these fears that get really loud in my head. And I was thanking God that I had this show to do today because then I could just put one foot in front of the other. I knew it's like if I get to the show and I walk out into the light like Emmett Fox, open the blinds, let the light in, that I'm going to feel like $1 million afterwards.
Oh my God. 2 things you reminded me of. One, if you didn't listen to last week's episode.
Oh man.
Do you remember the title?
I know it was Lisa Schmidt. What was it about? No, it was really good.
It's like love the one you're with, or
love the one you're with.
And you are the one you are with from the beginning to the end.
In the description, we talked about how we're going to go on a fast from criticism and feast on praise or feast on affirmative ideas. Mm-hmm. And I wrote just the day before yesterday, I wrote, today I mentally feast on praise, self-praise, and I'm aware of how it improves my circumstances. Because it's very easy for me, after learning about this for so long, it's gotten very easy, the habit of being praising others,
right?
Praising conditions. But I go, wait a minute. What if, how often do I really say, Darrell, you're doing a great job. Wow, Darrell, that was really amazing. Wow, you did a lot today. Right. Hardly ever.
I hear you.
But when we do it, and I suggest you try it, you're going to be amazed, like I was that day, and I'm glad I'm rereading it again to continue. You're going to be amazed at how circumstances, and I know for a fact, on that day went incredibly smooth for me. I had right off the bat, I had an early appointment at the VA for ear, nose, and throat. Never been to this specialist before. Thought I know that place like the back of my hand. And I did what Ed was mentioning last week about don't make yourself feel pressure because of time. And if I had any little inkling of, because of traffic at that time in the morning, I know I'm going to be there. Perfect timing.
Yes.
In a perfect way. I got there with time to find the office and still check in. I pull up, car gets parked, I walk in, and then I can't find this office anywhere. And I said, okay, look, this I'll have to ask someone. I asked someone, and my mind started to get feast on fear. It started going, oh no, we're going to be late. And I go, no, Darrell, it's all going to work out. And when we do this, you're doing good. Everything's going great. And as I'm doing that, I'm meeting joyful people. And because I'm praising myself, I don't feel intimidated about asking anyone, do you know where this office is? Everyone was super nice, guided me over there. I get in, and I was prepared for sitting in the waiting room. And unfortunately, a lot in the past, in the waiting room, they'll play, a news channel, which is like, it's the death for a hospital waiting room, is the news channel. So I get there, no news channel, folks.
Wow.
There's 3 people in the waiting room. I check in, let the guy know I'm going to use the restroom. I come back, nobody in the waiting room. But I had things to do. So I sat there. I go, I got things to do. I brought some, things I could do on my phone other than looking at social media. That's very important.
Yeah.
So I had like something for the show I wanted to type out. So I'm doing that, and I'm engaged, so I'm feeling good. As soon as I started, doctor comes out. Oh, Mr. Fazaro? Yeah, walk right in. I go in, got to numb your nose. He pulls out a scope, goes into my head. There's all this crazy stuff. And he goes, you can make an appointment. They'll call you for a CT scan, whatever that is, of my sinuses. So I go, great. He goes, well, on the way out, you should drop in and make it today if there's no line. Okay. And instead of going, no, there's probably a line.
Right.
I went right there. One person in front of me, they left. Boom, I get up, make my appointment. I leave. I'm back in my car. I got there at 9:35. My appointment was at 9:40. I ended up driving home after all of that, scopes, meeting doctors, nurses, getting lost. At 10:20, I was in my car calling Lori going, you're not going to believe it. And the remainder of that day, it was like all the concerns I had, the contractors, with the fence and all that, I had those major concerns. Dude, these guys were there. They were already doing all the things I was concerned about, like thought I might have to mention.
Right.
They were handling like
beautiful.
It was, but it all and it was magical, but it wasn't magical. And this was a perfect example of being aware of how not just condemning and criticizing out there, because that definitely affects it, but being mindful of criticizing and condemning myself, and not just being mindful of not doing that, but taking the initiative to do what would seem corny, telling myself, positive praise, giving myself positive praise like I would tell a friend. I go, holy cow, don't worry, it's all going to work out. I was doing that to myself, but consciously, like with my name. And if you still think, if you're listening to this, because when I heard this stuff in the beginning, I thought, that's weird. Saying this, Darrell, you're doing a good job.
Right.
But listen, folks, we have no problem all day long saying, stupid. How could I have done that? Right. Oh, man, I can't believe I knew I should have left earlier. So why is that okay? Yeah. And praising to ourselves seems silly. It's the same thing.
I agree.
So that once that was brought to my attention early on, I go, oh, yeah, that's crazy for me to think it's silly not to praise myself if I've been condemning myself.
Oh, yeah.
Why not do something that's beneficial?
Yeah, and I would say if I'm not willing to praise myself first, I'm going to become the praise that I give to others is not going to be nearly as effective, because what I'm doing there is just projecting out the praise to them. But if I don't feel worthy of it and receive it first, you say like we got to have it ourselves in order to give it. So when I take the time to be loving to myself, and it's exactly what you're saying, it's because the programming that we're letting go of was so critical for many of us. For me, I can say that like there's a lot of that critical programming coming up that I'm releasing right now, and it's amazing just how I can get used to that and think that, like you just said, that's like okay to do.
Yeah.
And it's actually it's the worst thing I can do for myself and anyone else is to be criticizing myself. I was reading I was listening to Trust Your Vibes, that book by Sonia Choquette, and it's funny, I've been listening to it at 1.3%. I have to read 1.3 times faster. I didn't realize it because we have the Alan Cohen set to that. And I like that book at that speed as well. But and along a similar line, like with the spiritual stuff, she said like, when if we're naturally inclined to these like intuitions and connection to our spirituality, but if we were like raised in an environment where we didn't feel safe or we were judged
right.
or we often will say like, I had the weirdest feeling, or like, I don't know where this came from. But whereas like she's saying like her mom was like very intuitive and like encouraged her to be as well.
Yeah.
But she was talking about the difference in the wording of saying like, I just had the most amazing idea, rather than saying, I just had this weird feeling, almost like being apologetic about it. And I'm like, so that's something that because I function so much out of this spiritual viewpoint. I can't go back. I never really could, but I really don't even want to go anywhere. And in the school, because one of those things she was describing is like working in an environment where they're only going off like the five senses primarily.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're not even tending to look at it through that lens. And I realized a lot of of these principles, which are, like you said, it's not a miracle. These are like Charles Fillmore would say, it's not a miracle. It's just how things are actually working. It's
the law.
When
yes.
look through the principles that are actually governing things on like there's a whole nother room inside of us, which is our imagination, this inner voice that like we need to. If we don't know that room exists or that we can get in there and change it, we think that's just on autopilot and that's just the way it is, right? But this metaphysics, this new thought is about going like into a deeper room within ourselves and saying, no, I can change that program. I can change what's coming out of there too. And when I do, that's when we say funniest thing. That's when mind, like I didn't mention on the show last week, but my miracle of time this week was told myself I'm going into heaven today when I was going into work instead of hell. I'm going into heaven today. Some reason. I mean, I had one of these mornings where I was have a good momentum. I go, I'm going into heaven today. And I realized like, one, it's going to bless the job I'm currently working at, but two, it's also preparing me for the next environment that I'll be working in or working with or whatever. And then I've been making all things new. My path. I walk down the street to get the newspapers instead of jumping in my car and driving and pulling over real quick and grabbing them out of a machine. There's these free papers. We do the puzzles. I bring them for my staff. So I walk down the street, and now my walk is going longer. And even though the time was later than what I used to think of as being late, I said, no, it's like, first of all, there's no one waiting for me when I get there. It's not like I'm going to, even if I was
no,
this
is self-imposed nonsense.
Yeah, it's
I understand, which
nonsense.
is what we here at Funniest Thing consider sin as the acronym for.
Yeah,
self-imposed nonsense.
And fear is false evidence appearing real, as we've heard it said. So I just let go of all of that. I got in my car. I left like 10 minutes later than what I like to think of as like the time to get there on time. I'm talking to Kirky on the ride, having a great conversation. I get on the freeway, and there's like a convoy of police vehicles and like one truck, like a work truck that has an arrow. They're closing the freeway. I get on the freeway, and that is coming right behind me. So there's no traffic because right behind
Right.
me they're like
They're
closing the
blocking.
freeway.
Yes.
There was no one on.
This always happens.
In LA. I ended up getting to school a few
Yes.
minutes early.
Yes.
And leaving 10 minutes later than usual. And it's all been for me, like what you mentioned. I feel like I'm like, part of letting go of control is for me is like opening up the time to let it
Yes.
flow instead of trying to micromanage it, wondering how it's all going to work. Just like envisioning myself, no, I'm going to let time flow. I'm going to stop micromanaging.
Yeah.
And like when we let time flow, amazing things do happen.
Well, it's crazy. When I was fresh and never knew about this stuff, and Mike Dugan was turning me on to it, I wanted to believe it was true.
Right.
Ed and I, though, have encountered people over the time, when we tell some people, what we do, like someone's, there's traffic, and I go, well, listen, let me tell you what I got to do. I put on a positive podcast,
Right.
or I call one of my good friends that I'm not going to go on a long tirade about the traffic. I may vent a little, but then we get into talking about spiritual or positive conversation.
Right. Blessing instead of cursing.
Yes. And what happens is every single time I see how the circumstances instantaneously correspond to my consciousness.
Yeah.
It's almost like for no reason at all, traffic opens up.
Right.
For no reason at all, even if I'm in traffic while I'm listening to the book on tape or the podcast or talking to you, I get there early and it makes no sense.
Yeah.
And, you tell this to me, oh, yeah, well, but you know what? I was done. I was done with trying. I just don't have it in me to like fight and try to overcome. So I want to believe this. And the great news is it's a principle. And I just want to read this before I forget.
Yeah.
Because we're
Norman
speeding
Lundy.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah, this book is Norman Lundy. And we've been reading
You Unlimited.
You Unlimited.
An amazing book.
The past 2 episodes.
It seems to circle back to us every once in a while. Just like all the teachers, it seems like the right ones step forward to kind of guide us at the right time.
So I'm going to read 3 things in succession here because it all goes together.
So good.
And here's the great news, folks. Regardless of how many times you may have misdirected the law in the past, and we're talking about the great law, the truth that sets you free, which is life is it's reflective. You know what I mean?
Yes.
What we give out, what goes out, we receive. It
reflects back to us our consciousness.
Yes, our consciousness. So here we go. Regardless of how many times you may have misdirected the law by thinking negatively, cursing a thing instead of blessing it, no matter how many times you have failed or suffered difficulties and anxieties, no matter how many times you have had trouble and misery, it's never too late to start to use the law in a new and better way. Isn't this wonderful? And that's where we go, behold, I make all things new.
Yes.
The law knows only how to act, how to respond to your thought. You need to learn that every thought is the start of a new causation, a new positive action, which will become manifest in your experience. The wonderful thing is that this new action can transform and transcend any present undesirable condition in your life.
Amen.
And here's some good news, folks.
Oh, this is really good news.
God never punishes you. This is the most comforting thing you could possibly learn. God does not punish man. There is nothing outside ourselves that puts obstacles in our pathway. Or as Reverend Ike would say, God doesn't do spite work. Albert Einstein was one of the great ones who thoroughly understood the law of cause and effect. He said, God may be subtle, but he is never malicious.
Yes.
And that's from Albert Einstein.
And that's good to know when my mind is being malicious and punishing, that is not in alignment with
That's right.
with God, which means truth. It means the only place that's happening is inside my brain. And as frustrating as that could be at times, at least that's the one thing I can do something about, right? And when when I manage to keep using these tools, amazing things happen.
That's why my positive thoughts, my positive attitude, and attitude, what's attitude? It's my approach to life. So
Yes.
my positive attitude brings me closer to God.
Yes.
That's okay. It's not just recommended to be positive. It actually brings me closer to a source of power that now I'm working with instead of against.
Yeah, because it brings us closer to what's actually going on around us. Instead of some crazy thing I got going in my brain and I'm wreaking all kinds of havoc and hell and wondering why other people aren't seeing it, because it's only happening really in my brain.
And here's the final good news. And it's called the technique for self-renewal. And this is what Norman Lundy suggests. Say to yourself, I will renew myself. I will transform myself by the renewing of my mind. I'm bursting out of the prison of old habits, attitudes, and routines. I let divine intelligence keep the promise to me. Behold, I make all things new. Think what that means. Crazy, folks. I've been reading this book like 2 pages a night, like we recommend over the past couple of weeks. And I just read that 2 nights ago.
After we made the show.
Behold, I make all things new. And I'm going, Ed, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So listen to this little example he gives. It can be done, just as my friend Catherine G. did. Not long ago, I met Catherine on the street and had to look twice to be sure it was really my old friend. She looked so radiant, so truly transformed that it was amazing. Well, Catherine, I remarked happily, it's obvious you've left your woes behind. You look marvelous. What happened? You know, doctor, I am a new woman. I mean, I truly, literally am. I renewed myself just as you so often told us Paul taught, by the renewing of my mind. I renewed my mind and let my mind renew my body and affairs.
Yes.
That's so good.
That's it.
And here's the only work. It was work. I had accumulated so much mental junk that all had to be thrown out, one foolishness at a time. It took me quite a while to feel clean all through. You mean you had a real heart cleaning, Catherine?
Yes.
I did. And I love my beautiful, shiny new world where everything works for my good. And I got one last quote from Leonardo da Vinci. You ready, Ed?
I want to hear it.
Goes with the show. He said, "Oh God, you give us everything or sell us everything." He says, "Oh God, you sell us everything for the price of effort." And some people mistakenly thought, oh, he must be talking about hard work, but he wasn't. What he was talking about, God sells us everything for the price of the effort it takes to eliminate the negative, accentuate the positive, or also what he said, overcoming the fear to make a start.
Yes.
The fear to get started.
That's right.
Just get started. Take one step, like we on our show say. That's the stepping out boldly. It's not a giant kicking down a door.
Right.
It's just, okay, I'm just going to get started.
Yes.
And boom.
Bingo.
God will give you everything.
All right, Patreon contributions. Let's bless the heck out of them. Magnify and multiply the good. Thank you. There's two of you out there. We appreciate you. You know who you are, who increased your Patreon contribution this week. What a huge blessing to us and to the show and to Chobo Studios and to everyone who listens. So we want to thank you for that. If you want to send us something, funniest thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. We got a beautiful postcard from Lois Conklin. She makes these herself, and she's a metaphysician. You all know her by now. Hi, Darrell and Ed. You may not always see the results of your kindness, but every bit of positive energy you contribute to the world makes it a better place for all of us. And that's from Unity WV. I'm not sure what that is.
That's right. No interaction is insignificant.
Yeah, another postcard from my two inspiration builders who bring weekly ideas. So grateful for you. Love, Lois Conklin. Okay. And then, to live by. Weekly ideas to live by. Thank you, Lois. Then we got one from Kirky. It looks like it's me and it's Darrell with like a little dog. Darrell's a little dog, and I'm telling him, get down, you bastard. And if you go on YouTube, you can see all the action. Funniest thing with Darrell and Ed. Great news, guys. Life is consciousness flowing through forms, but never restricted by forms. Therefore, the situations in my world cannot restrict me for long. The instant I think a new thought, a new form begins to appear.
Yes!
Every static condition in my life must be the result of my failure to think new thoughts. I now dedicate myself to spiritual flexibility. I dedicate myself to spiritual flexibility. And that's from Ernest Holmes. That is the truth. Spiritual and mental flexibility, a willingness to constantly rethink about how we're doing things and what we believe to be true.
Well, I just got to end this segment with, this really brings us full circle to the original statement by Jesus.
Which was?
Well, because, it was a long, long time ago. So over years, it got translated into contemporary English. But these lessons are so prehistoric. What Jesus really said was, you want to do it with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Yabba dabba doo! I make all things new!
Coming up next, Soulful Sammy Smith motivates us to accentuate the positive with today's reading from Joyce Kramer. Choose. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, live from Chobo Studios.
Welcome back. We're making all things new with our guest today, Sammy Smith. But I think Ed has a little something he wants to share.
Yeah, Sammy, by the way, we're so happy you're here, man. How are you doing today? All right. Look at this, Sammy. If you're on YouTube, you can see a giant box that Mark Hicks, the founder of Truth Unity, friend of the podcast.
TruthUnity.net. If you're looking for spiritual information, history, readings, videos, all for free, go to TruthUnity.net.
Yes, and we're speaking at the Fillmore Bible gathering?
The first ever Fillmore Metaphysical Bible Society gathering.
Okay, and there's a link on TruthUnity.net if you want to attend. It's November 3rd and 4th, I believe. Saturday?
No, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
It's a 3-day thing, and we're going to do a tour of Unity Village.
We're going to fly
music.
We're flying in Thursday night. We'll be speaking. Darrell's speaking Saturday morning, and I'll speak Saturday afternoon. So anyway, Mark Hicks panicked when he figured out that who he had asked to speak, and he sent us a huge box of books, Bible study course. He's like, oh, these knuckleheads. I better send him my book too, just to get him up to speed.
Credo of a Metaphysical Christian.
This is a great book by Mark Hicks, Credo of a Metaphysical Christian. He sent us Fishers of Men from 1928 by Glenn Clark. He sent us God, A Present Help by H. Emily Cady.
That's a good one.
This is a great book.
These are old.
Yeah.
From last century, the beginning of last century, or the late 1800s. And these books, man, they just boom, boom, boom. You could read any page, any paragraph, and you get an instant affirmative kick upstairs.
He sent us a great Bible that has metaphysical translations of everything.
Yes.
The truth is, he asked everyone speaking there if they wanted to receive this box. And we thank you, Mark, for sending it to us. But if you want to join us out there, we'll be staying in the beautiful Unity Hotel over there on the Unity Village on the grounds, and then we're going to be speaking on Saturday, and we're going to be hanging out and eating delicious barbecue.
Yes. Now, I just want to let you know, go to the website. Indy's going to have it in the YouTube link, so you'll see it.
We can put it in the podcast link also.
We'll put it in the podcast link, so you'll check it out. And it's only $99 for all 3 days. Includes everything, but the hotel is right on Unity Village. We recommend you stay there. It's actually the best deal in town.
$134 a night if you're going to attend this conference.
Yeah.
2 queen beds.
And it's a 4-star hotel.
Great.
It's great. And we'll be there.
They're providing food.
Yeah.
And such. So, so we're super excited about that. I just want to send a shout out also to Sue Hodgson, who sends us a daily email. And she sent us a great quote from Marianne Williamson that goes with the show. Because a lot of this really is surrendering the part of me that has been basically making generating these conditions that are troubling me, and recognizing, okay, if the only place this exists in my brain, in my mind, and if I let go of this, then God will, I'll reharmonize with this heaven on earth.
Yeah.
So she sent this quote from Marianne Williamson that said, in surrendering a situation to God, we're asking him to give us new thoughts and feelings about it. We're asking his help in de-emphasizing things that don't ultimately matter and focusing on what does. That's the thing. We focus on things that don't even matter, but I think they're life and death sometimes. We are asking his thoughts to replace our own, that we be lifted by his spirit to a lighter consciousness and thus a lighter life. The spiritual life is one of mental discipline, which is what you're talking about, the effort Leonardo da Vinci talked about, in which we cleave to higher thought forms because we know they are the key to our happiness and peace. Only in truth do we find a context for life that makes sense of our existence. It's funny that as humans, we even have to say that only in the truth do we find, it's like, you would think that's where we would look first. Only in the truth do we find a context for life that makes sense of our existence. And I want to say too, when the thing about asking for me, the thing about asking, again, is like mom or dad is already there, the teacher, they want to help us. This is not a begging. This is just asking, meaning opening up to receive what is already being offered. That's what I look at.
Well, you know what? I changed the word lately. Invite. I'm inviting it in.
Yeah.
That's because I don't need to. It's just, all I got to do is say, hey, can you come in here? Oh, yeah, of course. I've been waiting for you to ask me to come in.
Yeah, it's like when Indy goes to, what's the Olive Garden, and they offer free breadsticks. It's like, all he has to do is say, yes, please, I'll have those. Right? God is offering us those breadsticks.
Well, one last thing,
What?
Ed.
I can't hear you, Indy. What?
It's not.
Okay.
What? I forgot. We were supposed to bring mugs today.
Oh, yeah, Sammy, we've been doing something called mug shots.
Now, did
Rod Schweitzer bring the coffee?
Yes, Rod Schweitzer. Thank you for the coffee. And I had a mug in here, but it looks like Gidget, my Australian stumpy tail.
Yeah.
Look what she put in here. That little devil. Do you see what that says?
I prefer dogs over people. Oh, my God.
Gidget. I had a different mug in my bag, you sneaky little mutt.
And I got my Be Kind, which is one of my students, Ruben, gave me this as a gift last year. So thank you. Plus, we were drinking our soda water out of Chobo mugs.
Hey.
Oh, we didn't even thank Jeff Comfort out there in Kansas City. Hopefully, we're going to see him while we're there. Because each week,
he takes us right into the comfort zone. And now the moment you've been waiting for.
What about Indy, man? Thank you, Indy.
Hey, it works now. Yeah, great. Doing great. Y'all love you.
All right. We love you too, man. All right, Sammy, you've been so patient with us. Thank you so much. Look at that smile.
Oh, sure thing, Ed.
How are you enjoying the show so far? What's on your mind? What do you want to share right off the bat?
Well, first off, I would say I appreciate the fact that you guys are bringing these principles into your daily life. It's not just a theory. You are really working with them, and that's what it's all about. When you brought up the Mark Hicks, that cardboard box, I thought you were going to pull this out.
Yeah, we have that too. Oh, that's in there.
I was going to match you.
Yes.
The Fillmore Study Bible is unbelievable what he's done. It's incredible.
Yes.
So Mark Hicks, I've said for years, he does more for unity than unity does for unity.
Yeah.
And the website truthunity.net is just filled with treasures from the past. But the verse that you mentioned earlier, this is 2 Corinthians 5:17. And this is just an absolute treasure all through here. He's got commentary on the different verses taken from Unity publications over the years, Charles Fillmore and other people. But therefore, if anyone is in Christ, I'm going to give this the King Sammy translation, so I'll alter it slightly. But if anyone is in Christ, that person is a new creature. The old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. And that is so powerful because I think most people are walking around the world acting as if God didn't exist and they have no power in anything and life is just happening to them. But we know that God does exist. And this verse right here in Second Corinthians says, if you're in Christ, if you're in the presence, then all things are new. And it comes down to the word that you picked for today, Darrell, which is choose. You don't have to live a life of uh, being annoyed or scared or stressed out every single day of your life. It's a matter of choice. So Joyce Kramer, you were reading from the Joyce Kramer reading
Yes.
today. She was fantastic. She was a great Unity minister ordained by Lowell Fillmore.
Whoa.
She got into Unity in the mid '60s. She first read a book by Donald Curtis before she ever heard of Unity, and then went to a Unity church and thought, "Wow, this is really resonating with me." So she had 50 years in the ministry, worked with some of the top people. Eric Butterworth, she spoke at his church and he spoke at hers. She was just really fantastic, but she had a little more toughness to her, some mental toughness that sometimes in the New Thought world, the Unity world, there's a little motion. It's like, oh, you poor thing, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. Joyce is more like, get a backbone, quit whining.
Yeah.
you know, you
Right.
you you have power. Use your power of choice. Uh,
Yes.
you're not helpless. So I remember years ago, I was a professional magician for a while. I still edited a magic magazine, The Linking Ring, for the International Brotherhood of Magicians, among other things that I do. But I was I had done thousands of shows for children, but then I got booked at a conference, and so I was among my peers, and I was supposed to perform. So something about that, I was nervous. you know, so I prayed about this. Lord, just give me the strength. So I get out on stage, and I look out there. The audience is darkened, the stage is illumined, it's bright, and I picked up a newspaper to do a trick where you tear it up and you put it back together. And I picked up this newspaper, and I saw my hand start to shake. Now, you don't want your hand shaking if you do something with a newspaper. It's a very loud uh, broadcast of what you're feeling. And I had prayed about this, but here I am shaking. And then it entered my mind, I don't have to be nervous. I don't have to shake. And I instantly quit shaking. And I did the trick. And afterwards, I thought, that's amazing. I just went from being nervous to not being nervous. It took 1 second. It was
Wow.
one thought. It was the power of choice. And of course, we all wish we did that every every day of the week. But and sometimes, Joyce was she believed this 100%. She believed in unity. We've kept the Joyce Kramer Library. It's 1,000 unity and metaphysical books. All through these books, you see her notes and other. I mean, she really studied this and she believed
Wow.
it. So to the extent that if she saw ants in her house, and Justin Epstein, who was Eric Butterworth's successor, told this story. But if she saw ants in her house, she would say, instead of getting the bug spray or saying, these ants, this terrible, why are they doing in my house? She would go over to the ants and say, now look, you don't belong in this house. You belong outside. You are outside creatures. So I want you to leave this house. And then he said, sure enough, sometime later the ants were gone. you
Right.
know, you give it whatever explanation you want, but and she believed, like Emmett Fox, that our consciousness affects the weather
Yeah.
and that the world consciousness, in fact.
Yes.
But and so she would often, when I spoke to her on the phone, she'd say, "How's the weather?" And oh, the weather here is great, Reverend Kramer. Everything here is perfect.
Yes.
you know, uh, but she, she wasn't. She was realistic. She understood that the things do happen, and I was thinking about the power of choice in regard to the weather. I live in Florida, so hurricanes have visited us from time to time, and we've never had any problem here really to speak of. No damage, but we're also not on the coast. But one of my graphic designers lived in Bonita Springs, when a hurricane came through about 5 years ago, and the whole state was buckling down, and people are like, and you're watching TV, listening to the radio, and there's all this fear going in. Of course, you want to take legitimate precautions, but it just gets, to a white heat point. So the hurricane passed through Florida. We didn't have any problem, but I knew the area where my friend Tony lived had been hit hard, direct hit. But a person could say, "Oh, well, my place has been destroyed." And he calls. He says, "Well," and we were under a deadline for a magazine. He's like, "Well, there's 4 feet of water in my house, but give me 24 hours, and I'll be back to work." So sure enough, the next day he calls, and I missed his call. He left a message. He says, "I've got a place to stay. I have electricity. I have my laptop. I bought a scanner at Office Depot. So there, click." And he was back to work. He had a choice. Yes. He finished the magazine on time.
Wow.
He dealt with the other things later, but he did not get bogged down into like, "Oh, this is so terrible." So you just have, God is real. And if you are in Christ, if you are in God, you read Catherine Ponder, she has this whole section on, it came from Charles Fillmore originally, actually. The name of Jesus Christ, you just dwell on that name. If you don't even know how to pray or what to affirm, you just think about that name, Jesus Christ, and just think about that over and over, and a sense of calm comes over. You realize that God does exist, and that you can be cared for. So anyway, but you had asked about this message. Are you ready for that to be read now?
Before you read that, I just want to add something, because your story just brought something up. This week, Ed and I, every week we attend, we mentioned Nancy Norman too when we got started, and every week she does a infinite prosperity workshop. And she just got back from Unity Village. She was on a trip, the conference, I guess whatever they did, whatever the ministers.
A tour of some sort.
Yeah, with all the ministers. And she got back, so she let us know, she looked great, and she let us know at the beginning of the workshop, she goes, "Well, I came back, I had a great time, and once you know it, I got COVID."
Yeah, this was via Zoom, by the way.
Via Zoom, yeah, via Zoom. She's in her house. We're in our homes anyway, because she's in Florida. And all of a sudden, there's several people going, "Oh, you're so brave. Oh." like some. So in my mind, they were thinking in my mind, "Oh man, this is exactly what I do. Like, I have to do the affirmative or I get worse." And I would know, showing up to this class via Zoom, by the end of it, even if it's a shorter class, I'm going to get a booster shot of spirit, of enthusiasm, of healthy hormones. It's going to boost my immune system. And I've known this forever. Just like the show. Last night, for some reason, I had a splitting. I haven't had one of these headaches, Sammy, in years. But at around 1 o'clock, I got it, and I couldn't find any position that was comfortable. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to be up at 3. And I didn't grumble. I go, "I'll do my routine." Lori doesn't make a big deal of it. She knows, okay, he probably has his headache, because I don't make a big deal of it. I do my routine. I make some phone calls to people who live on your side of town, because I'm in California, and I know they're awake, by 4, it's 7 over there. I write some postcards, and I'm feeling better. And I also know by showing up to the show, Darrell, by the end of the show, you're not going to have an ounce of this headache. So after the class, I call Nancy Norman, because I know she thinks like we do, right?
Yeah.
Affirmative. So I go, "Nancy, I just called because I know I already see you like next week doing this show, doing the call, and you're going to be totally fine." She goes, "Oh, yeah." She goes, "Of course I am." And I said, "I got to tell you, though, come on. those people, when you said, today might be short because wouldn't you know it, I got COVID. They all go, "Oh, you're so brave," like Mama B style, like when Mike B. And she goes, "Oh yeah, some people, she goes, they've been doing it for a long time, and it surprises me too." but I told her, I said, I knew exactly what, like you knew by showing up to this, it's gonna boost you, just like your friend. I have a choice. Always have a choice. Am I going to try to do the effort? And that's the effort that Leonardo da Vinci is talking about.
Yeah.
That God sells us everything. And he didn't mean garbage. He meant, God, you will give me the intelligence. Right. You will give me the materials. You will meet all my needs. And the only cost is my effort. And the effort he's talking about is the affirmative choice. The small effort it takes to move in that direction is going to create, or it sets in motion, the actual the solution. Yes.
That's a great example with Nancy Norman. And I've heard her speak before and do a seminar. She's great.
Yeah, she lives it too, which gets me. And then when we talk to each other about it, like now with you and Ed, and when I talk with her, because we all actually experiment with this stuff in our real life.
Right.
And we get the results. And then when we talk to each other about it, we're like, ooh, yeah, ooh. And then we feel so good after talking about it. More good things happen because we're into that. We're in that frequency.
That's very true. And that was recently in the last week, one of Joyce's daily blessing messages said, quit thinking, quit dramatizing present or past illnesses and the illnesses of other people. Just stop.
Yes.
Right.
And she was like that too. I knew her when she was in her 90s. Well, I met her in 2017. I was under contract with Unity to write for Daily Word in 2015 and 16. I met Joyce in 2017. She'd had some health challenges, and she said, I'm working on my healing. I said, what do you need healed? She said, well, I don't walk as well as I would like to. That's the only thing she do. She didn't say, I've got to walk, or I'm pulling myself upstairs with a rail. She said, I don't walk as well as I'd like to. So she could have a week where she fell down, went to the emergency room, her blood pressure skyrocketed, all sorts of things happened. She gets home, I call her and say, well, how have you been? Well, it's been an interesting week.
Yes.
that was all she'd say. There's don't dramatize it. She's moving on. She's, well, okay, so I scratched my leg. It's getting better. She said, it'll be better tomorrow.
I love that. I want to be around people like that all the time.
Yeah. Very. Yep. It's very encouraging. And, there's a group of people that she attracted that we're still working with. Joyce Kramer Ministries. By the way, JoyceKramerMinistries.com. It's where you can sign up for this daily blessing. But her friend, Albert Lewis, of many years, a great guy, just a very dynamic person. If you ever need somebody to open in prayer, call on Albert and his wife, Patricia, Barbara Higgins. Of course, Joyce's daughter and son-in-law, Carolyn and Jim, fantastic. Kathy Schuler. I'm going to leave people out, but Joyce attracted these people who were all very positive and were totally dedicated to helping move her work forward. And it's very inspiring. But you're right. You start talking about it and you find people that you can connect with who understand and who believe this. And then even though you do believe it, something works, you have to say, hey, look what happened. It's
yes.
It's still working today. It worked yesterday, but look, it's working now.
I know. It's great.
It's amazing every time.
It's amazing every time. Well, we should read. You definitely read that because I also want to listen to what Sammy's going to read. Is you could sign up to receive these messages at JoyceKramerMinistries.com. And I recommend it. Ed, I know we both love these because these are like good old fashioned Emmett Fox style, kick you upstairs. Yeah. It's like my go-to one out of, because I receive a bunch of these now from different, but I go right to hers. And here we go. You're going to read one now.
Yeah, very good. All right, thank you. The affirmation, well, it's you choose your thoughts. Choose is the word. I take charge of my thoughts and I dwell only on that which is true and good. There's one area of your life where you are undisputedly the boss. You are in charge of your own thinking process.
Mm.
No one can make you think anything you do not want to think. You have the total power to choose. What are you living with in your thought life? Many people dwell on regrets and resentments of years past. They keep these old grievances alive by thinking about them. You don't need to live this way. Learn to take conscious charge of your thoughts. Think of those things that are good and true and relevant to your everyday life and experiences. If you seek to become conscious of the activity of God in your life today, then base your thoughts on this understanding. God works in your life as a dynamic power for good. Let your thoughts center around these ideas, and you will be uplifted, blessed, and successful. And the Bible verse is Joshua 24:15. Choose this day whom you will serve.
Yes.
Wow. That's perfect for the
And
show.
I like how Florence Scovel Shinn drives that Bible verse home by saying, choose this day who you will serve, fear or faith. What's it going to be? Just like my note from the beginning of the show. Am I going to let fear? Am I going to continue what I said? I wrote it down. Am I hiding and allowing my fears to control my life?
Yep. Kirky gave us a quote from Neville Goddard, which I just happened to find in this book right now from we read it last week, but it goes along with this because a lot of times the people who want to sing those like pity songs call themselves like realists and things.
Yeah.
And Neville Goddard said the whole vast world is all imagination. Our realists think they are nearer to the truth, yet they do not realize that they are dictating nothing more than their imagination. They laugh at those who are mystically inclined, but may I tell you, leave them alone and go your own way in confidence that what you are imagining you already have, you will become. That what you're imagining you already are. This is really good. This is a really great week for me because the things that my mind is doing in the wake of another week and just like just know of teaching in this public school and the way it's managed and everything, and noticing like what my mind really wants to cling to and feel kind of pity for myself or whatever, blame someone else about. It's like I've been calling it. I had one day where I woke up and I was just like, I don't know if I can even get up to do the morning routine. Thank God it's so habit. I just kept taking a step at a time, and then I just started saying, today I started singing some song to myself about, today I am emptying my mental dumpster. I just letting all that crap out, letting it out. And I was laughing, and I even told people that. So instead of me going in and talking to a teacher and either avoiding talking to the teacher because I didn't want to go in there as a victim, or going, you know how it is, I'm suffering, suffering because of all the stress. I was just like, hey guys, how you doing? And they're like, and I said, yep, I'm emptying my mental dumpster too. And then that gave me the inspiration to then have the conversations about students that I wanted to have. And this is just such a good reminder to keep emptying the mental dumpster, let it up, let it out, because it does come up and we do have to let it out. And I'm loving connecting with the spirit of Joyce right now, because I feel like I need a little bit of a kick in the behind right now, just in terms of the creativity part of life and the like going out on a limb a little, just enough to meet God there and take flight. Like I woke up last night. I told you I've been telling my vibes, my intuition, my spirit, I'm listening. I'm sorry, I wasn't listening fully in the past. I'm listening now. Even if I do take care of this or that, I'm still listening. I'm not ignoring you. This doesn't mean we're stuck here. And I've been talking, my dreams were feeling so crappy. So I was just like, come on, like, I want to hear from you in my dreams. And I had a dream that I had at the end of the dream, it was like I had this realization: you need to record a new record, and it had two meanings. One, I love creating music. It's just something that comes natural to me. It's fun, and I haven't been creating original music in a while. So I knew, like, because there's that part of the dream, like I knew it was about that. But then Darrell pointed out, actually, it was actually in that book I was just holding.
Yeah. Just the day before, Ed read this to me.
And I don't know if I can even find it right now, but it was in this book where called "God: A Present Help" by H. Emily Cady, in which she's describing how Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan." And one of the times was when Peter was like talking doubtfully or something.
I don't know.
Like, "Get behind me, Satan." So, it's talking about how Satan is really these adverse thoughts.
Error
thinking that questions the truth of these principles of love and ever increasing good that God is. So, but she said back in that time when that book was written, it was similar to people listening to Victrola records
today.
At that time, and 1928. I mean, like about or not. I'm not sure what year that book was written, but what she was talking about was how in that day people would listen to cynical records and records of doubt and fear, and she was saying we got to like get rid of those records.
Yeah, smash those records
of the thoughts of these adverse thoughts in our head. So when I had that dream, Darrell, you pointed out that it also was because it was record. It wasn't an album. It was like in the dream, very specifically. After I read that, it was you got to record. You just got to record a new record. And part of me like was because I heard these three like two bands, bunch of like young guys going like, and I knew that they had just recorded records and they were gonna go play them. And I was like, part of it was, I know it's kind of like you said about Leonardo da Vinci. Oh, do I really want to start a project again? But this was a little nudge, like, yes, it's worth it. But the other part is, come on, Ed. Like Kathy Norman said recently, this is just lazy thinking.
Yes.
Feeling victimized by your past thoughts. You gotta I need a little more Joyce Kramer. Like, come on, Ed.
Record a new record.
Record a new record for Christ's sake. Stop, stop. Oh, so I'm glad Joyce's spirit is speaking to me right now.
Well, it's funny. And you know what?
The analogy is great.
This is being a realist. My favorite quote, I looked it up because we have a listener, Sammy Smith, Rhonda Barnes.
Wait.
If I don't get these quotes right.
Oh, we have a listener
who will,
Rhonda Barnes.
And Sammy knows. So I got to make sure I get my quotes right because she'll go, oh, actually, that quote was by Herman Melville.
We love you, Rhonda. So hopefully Darrell's going to get this right.
Yeah, so here it is. I love this quote. I've loved it for years. It's, you are not a realist unless you believe in miracles. Anwar Sadat said that.
And
he was
not a realist.
Unless you believe in miracles.
Yes.
You are not a realist unless those people that are going like I used to, oh man, figures. See, this is what it's like, man. I wasn't a realist.
Right.
That's why I was miserable. I was living what do you call it? I was living a delusion. That's why I was miserable.
Yeah.
If I want to be a realist, I got to believe in miracles and possibilities and opportunities. And I've never met a successful pessimist.
No.
I've never met a confident pessimist. I was a pessimist. I had no confidence.
Dude.
But I've never met an unhappy optimist.
Yeah, correct. Or an unsuccessful one at
right.
that. If they're truly optimistic.
Because they're believing in faith. Ed, what did you just do?
I'm getting so excited by all this.
Ed's chair just went down to the lowest setting.
Yeah. This is great because...
If you walk up... I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Sammy. I was going to ask you to share your thoughts first anyway. Because we're going to get...
Yeah, I was just going to say what you're saying. If you sometimes you get into this state where you're like... angry or fearful or depressed. There's no way I can get all this done. Whatever you're dealing with. I'll sometimes do your mental dumpster thing. I'll say everything unlike the nature of God, I now release.
Yeah.
I just let it flow out. But also, if you walk outside, daytime or nighttime, and you look around, it kind of changes your state. You're you've been stuck in your office feeling okay. Walk outside, you look up and say, "Wow!" Like Donald Curtis, one of his book chapter titles, I think, "In Your Thoughts Can Change Your Life," is the universe is a very big place.
Yes.
You walk
Yes.
out, you look around, you think, "This is
Yep.
I'm a part of this." This is
Yes.
an amazing. This is a miracle in a sense. You look at the creation, the sky, the way uh, the grass is green if it's in the daytime, flowers are blooming. This whole thing, how everything is working, is just incredible. Or at night, like Emerson's quote said, if the stars appeared only once in 1,000 years, people would be out there going, "Wow, look, this is incredible! Look at this." They'd be gathering, look at the stars. If that only happened every 1,000 years, it'd be
Right.
some big event. He said, but every night come out these envoys of joy and light the universe with their admonishing smile, which says, "Hey, look,
Yes.
this is a miracle, God's creation."
I gotta recommend. Like I said, I've been adding at least 2 minutes of me grabbing my coffee in the morning and walking into my backyard, walking to the front of my house, looking up and down the street, not walking past it on my way to push my way to get to work, but just taking that time, like you said, to connect with God in that way and to connect with this reality. Because it really is, when I get in that mental dumpster's full and I'm stressing, I'm like marching past God and wondering where he
Right.
is, like.
That's very good. That's so true.
I got a good one. Just recently, I heard this guy, I don't know where, could have been on YouTube, could have been anywhere, folks. So I have no idea who the guy is, but he was talking to like two people at a desk like we are. Maybe it was a podcast even. And he said, okay, guys, I'm going to just proposition this. If you knew for a fact I was going to give you $1 million today, no strings attached, would it make your life any better? And everyone goes, yeah. All right, okay. Let's just say, how about 100%, no strings attached? Let's just make it $2 million. $2 million, no strings attached as far as me giving you this money and you ever having to pay it back. Do you think that would improve your life at all? Would it help eliminate a lot of the problems you have in your mind right now? And the guy goes, oh, yeah, of course. And he goes, well, there's only one thing. You don't get to wake up tomorrow. And everyone goes, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Isn't that worth more than $2 million? Doesn't that idea alone reduce your thoughts about your problems right in that instant? And I go, man, that's a great tool.
Right. So good.
And then there was this other one our friend Kirk sent us, Sammy. He said, how would you feel if I gave you $50,000 and the only catch was the person you least like in your life gets $100,000? How would you like that? And you go, ooh. But then Kirky responded, yeah, of course I love it because I could use $150,000. Like, in other words, he's the person he least likes as well as the one he likes himself. But when you think about it, you go, holy cow, I got a lot of resentment to get rid of because I could see it when I read that the first time, I go, oh my God, I could feel a little bit of that envy, even though I'm getting 50,000.
Right.
Well, wait a minute. You mean,
right.
So-and-so is going to get out. Darrell, stop it.
Yeah.
So use these tool, folks. It really.
You laugh like an Australian. Like you're like a crazy, like this guy, this is a DJ, Paul Fisher.
I don't know.
He's amazing. He was a pro surfer who just got into music and just like, boom. Now he makes all his money touring and DJing. And he posts, I just watch his posts because he laughs like a maniac. Like, yeah, I never quite caught that before. But you should wake up at 3 a.m. at the golden hour even more often. It looks good on you.
Yeah, well, you know what? Don't worry about the world ending today because it's already tomorrow in Australia.
That's right. I got another example. I have a student who was doing no homework. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by that, but his teacher was getting burned out because he's in this grade, but he's doing totally different work because he's not quite there.
Right.
So she was just in that burned out place, so everything was feeling heavy, understandable. But I wasn't in that place, so I called his mom that day. I think I told you this. Man, I had to pee in a smoothie cup while all this stuff was going on. So I'd call his mom, and we have a very trusting relationship. I got this inspired idea. I was like, tell him, do one line of homework and show it to me tomorrow. All I want is one line.
That's the best thing ever.
Line. And then I remember sometimes I'll take pictures of his stuff and send it to his mom when he works with me. So I said, do this. Send me a picture of it. And 2 hours later, I got a picture of 4 pages of homework done.
Yes.
And he wanted to do more.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's that inspired idea.
Dude, and using, like, how I was tricked into reading these books was my friend Mike Dugan said, can you read 2 pages a night?
Yeah.
And because I was like, oh, I got to read this stuff. Like, I got problems.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't quite get that by reading this stuff, my mind would change and my problems would evaporate, folks. But he said 2 pages. If he said, read this chapter and we'll talk about it at the end of the week, I would have done it. But he said, can you read 2 pages? I said, yeah. And what would happen was I'd start reading. I only have 2 pages to read before I go. But then I start reading this stuff. I get excited and I would read 4 pages. Yeah. And that's the thing, man. Set the bar low.
Well, I'll tell you why it works too. And this is why I do like 6 minutes of warm up my body in the morning. And I was thinking about, why does it work? I'm like in the best shape. I do a little bit of push-ups. I mean, I'm talking about like 9 push-ups. I'll do like this and that. I'll add like 45 seconds. Because once the subconscious mind accepts, I exercise, I read.
Yes.
Instead of I don't do that. Once the subconscious, even if it's only 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 line, once the most powerful creative force you got going, that subconscious mind accepts that's something I do rather than that's something I run away from, the whole thing changes. Yeah. Just like that. And the other last thing, as we're getting close to wrapping up, because this has been so healing for me. So thank you, Sammy, and thank you to Joyce as well for being with us in spirit. I realized I've been getting down that, like, why doesn't the leadership but the district? And I realized I am the leadership.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not waiting for anyone else because some leadership came in and judged something. I told you about this that was going on, had no idea what was going on. No one asked me and said, that can't happen. It was just, that person can't be doing a crossword puzzle while they're working, but they don't know why that person's doing it. Like, they don't understand. And so it was digging into that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of that, like, it's easy to get cynical, but I just realized, like, I'm that leader. I don't care what anyone else is doing. I am that leader that walks by faith, and I'm seeing all these miracles, like that kid I just told you about doing that work. And that's where I got to just keep putting my focus, keep living in heaven, and just see where that leads me, because it will not let me down.
And the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
The results are proving that the methods you're employing are having a positive, effective, what do I say?
Ripple effect?
Or demonstration.
Demonstration, yeah.
With these students, with the faculty. So
yeah, and that one parent that's been treating, I'm hearing Joyce in my mind going, dude, just let that go. Stop giving her your attention.
Yes.
It's not going to harm you. Stop. It's not even about her. It's that old little dragon in my brain that I've come up that I believe can harm me. It cannot harm me. I'm an expression of God. God is expressing through me, as me, and as that person. Just keep imagining me tickling that person and laughing and just moving forward.
Shake that little dragon's paw.
Yeah, or swirl it around
by its tail.
What you're saying about the your subconscious mind is that you feel yourself as a person who exercises, like you say, it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You can feel yourself as a person with emotional intelligence. I am that kind of person. If I feel like blowing up, I'm going to wait a few minutes.
Yeah.
Just let it simmer down. That's what I do. That's my way of dealing with things. That you're going to respond if you think you're that kind of a person.
That's so true.
The kind of person you're going to be, and the walking, exercise, I'm a person who reads these books. You know, you could take the Lao Tzu Chinese proverb, modernize it, and say the journey of my 10,000 steps begins with one step.
Yeah.
You know, every day, just take a step. Well, okay, then I might as well take another one.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Pretty
Yes.
soon, pretty soon, you're doing it. So these are
That's
great
so-
examples you all
yeah.
have given.
What you were saying is so key, because the fear that often comes up for me is, I'm gonna do something stupid. I'm gonna do it, but I got to remind that part of me. But I'm not that. I am someone who
Yeah.
responds lovingly. I am someone who
Right.
reads the
Yes.
stuff. I am someone who can be trusted. Because there's this other part of me that keeps going, let God handle this one situation and watch how it transforms
Yes.
for the better. And so I just got to remind myself, no, I'm up for that. I can do that. And in the meanwhile, I just live and enjoy life and
Yes.
not sit there and, I wonder, I wonder if it's going to work. No, I'm the type of person who can enjoy the ride and laugh
Yes.
along and just be tickled by the way God works this whole thing out. All right, Sammy, anything else before we wrap up? We got a quick story for you.
Hey, just a big thank you to both of you and
Oh.
for having me back in your show. It's great to see you both again. You're doing great.
Oh my
Both
God.
look alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life, which I fully expected. So
Yes.
thank you again for the opportunity.
Your smiling eyes have made our day.
Yes.
And blessed our listeners and watchers. So thank you for that. If you happen to make it out to Unity Village, let us know if you're going to be there for the
All right,
the
terrific.
film. That I didn't realize that Mark Hicks created that book.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
team. He put together the Fillmore Bible Society, and a team of people went through all this literature, and they've got the whole New Testament done now, working
That's
the Old Testament.
He's actually doing what the Fillmores
Yeah.
were doing, getting this information out to
Yeah.
anyone who wants it, because knowing when the people who want it have the ability to take it, that's going to change the world.
That's incredible. Yeah. So we're grateful for Mark Hicks and the work he's doing.
And you can come see and meet Mark Hicks along with Darrell and Ed
Yeah.
this November,
Yeah.
first weekend in November.
Yep.
at
November
Unity
3rd,
Village.
4th, and 5th.
If
Unity
you
Village.
if you live in the area, we'll even enjoy if you just did a drive by and came and visited.
Have a meal with Darrell and Ed. Stephen Tom Thorpe is going to join us as
That's
well.
right.
And the namesake, the spiritual father of Stephen Tom Thorpe might meet us as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Reverend Tom Thorpe. He's amazing. So listen to this, Sammy. We dug this one up. We heard this. Well, we were there, so that was another thing. A while back, Darrell and Ed ran into Sammy at Unity Village. He was looking rather sad. We asked him, "What's wrong?" And he replied,
Oh, last night my girlfriend told me I was acting like a clown.
we pat him on the back. We said, "Sorry to hear that, Sammy." Sammy shrugged.
Yeah. So I stopped juggling and almost fell off my unicycle.
His girlfriend.
Well, actually, my wife told me to quit acting like a flamingo. I really had to put my foot down this.
We should have called you about the joke in the first place. Hey, Indy, you want to pick off those headphones? Come on into the studio for a
Sure,
second.
of course.
We're going to sing ourselves out. Do you remember the name of this sage?
Yeah, the song.
No, we know that.
We know the song. Let's see who did. Oh yeah, Steppenwolf. How could we forget? Speaking of putting your foot down, Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf. Are you ready, Ed?
Yes.
I like to dream, yeah. Right between the sound machine. On a cloud of sound, I drift the night. And the place it goes all right. Goes here, flies near. Away from here. Well, you don't know what we can find. Why don't you come with me, little girl, on a magic carpet ride? Well, you don't know what we can see. Why don't you tell your dreams to me? Fantasy will set you free. Visit DarrellandEd.com.
Sammy Smith, we love you. JoyceKramerMinistry.com
for easy links to everything we do. And thanks for being a part of Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. Close your eyes, girl. Look inside, girl. Let the sound take you away. What What do people think of the song?
$500.
Really?
See, $200 for you, sir.
$100 for you.
What the heck? Oh, no.
$100 for you. No way. Are you serious? Yeah, I'll give you $100. Of course. Thank you so much.
When you record your podcast at Chobo Studios, you're helping people in need. Here at Chobo, we take a bold stance on helping the community by giving away 10% of all revenue, not just profit, to kind, hard-working people in the streets of Los Angeles. And thanks to all these wonderful podcasters, we've been able to give $1,400 this year alone through our kindness initiative, Chobo Kindness. Brought to you by Chobo Studios, LA's premier podcasting powerhouse. Follow for more.